Hello and welcome you crazy people to Tabletop Oddity. My name is Jay, and in this video I'm going to be talking about, well, it's the start of hopefully a new series where we look at strategy and tactics for Star Wars Legion. A series I'll possibly call How to Get Better at Star Wars Legion, something like that. And this, considering it is episode uno, is going to be very basic. This is sort of like for people who are new to the game, basically, just interested in getting better. And there's not going to be anything revelationary in here, because we're going to start with Know Your Army. So obviously, it sounds basic enough, and I mean it in a variety of different senses. One, you should really know the very basics of the unit. So let's say you've got stormtroopers, they've got precise 1. You need to make sure that you're aware of that, and maybe you play with that in mind. Obviously, you need to extrapolate that concept to every unit. If you can, if you're possibly going to an event, it's for the best if you can maybe try and learn what dice they roll, what defense dice they need, what range they can move, all that kind of stuff. It's better if you can try and memorize that. It's not required, it is on your card, but it will speed up your game and also might start to impact your thought process when you're making your strategic and tactical moves on the board. Like, for example, if you're the Rebel Troopers with Nimble, you might think, oh, well, I'll get Leia to give me a dodge, and then maybe I'll double move to try and get near this objective, and if I get a shot, then with Nimble it means I can use my dodge and then get a free dodge token. So it's obviously those are specifics, and I'm talking in general here. It's just get to know your army and its abilities. And that leads me on to the next really important point, which is remember to use your upgrades. This one I can't stress enough. I've been guilty of it myself. You pay points for something, whether it be Force Push on Darth Vader, whether it be even like an ion weapon or something like that. You pay the points for it, and then because you're too busy looking at your card to be like, oh, well, what does this do? You don't necessarily consider using your upgrades. For example, Darth Vader could be off doing something, and you might have had a free opportunity to maybe push a unit from cover in the open for another unit of yours to get a free shot of them without cover. And that might not even occur to you unless you remember to use your upgrade. So it's like, know what you've taken. Like, first and foremost, the sun's going down, to apologise. But then remember to use them. It's very pivotal, and it's also worth remembering what command cards you have. They can be pretty crucial. I remember there's one, I can't remember the name of it right now, but I know what it does. It gives your opponent's suppression basically within range 1 or 2 with Darth Vader, and that basically won me the game, because I suppressed a unit and I had no way of killing it, but I managed to, because I needed to do other stuff with Vader at the time, and I managed to suppress them and panic them, and they fled off an objective, which basically won me the game. But I deliberately saved that one till turn 6 because I was hoping for something like that. So they all sort of link together, but it's know your own army the best that you can. Try and remember all your upgrades and command cards. And obviously, you can just look at them if you're playing. You can be like, oh, what have I taken with my duties? What command cards do I have left? You know what I mean? You don't have to remember them. Remembering them just helps you keep that in mind when you're creating decisions. But don't be afraid. If you've not remembered them, 100% look at your own stuff. Don't just presume you've remembered everything. I guess that's another piece of advice. And then this one is sort of the same kind of thing, but the opposite. Go look at your opponent's list. Literally stand up, get off your, well, I was going to say tubby bum, but that's me, not like you are, and just go around to the other side of the table. Before the game, you pick a side, and you lay your stuff out, right? You sort of there's no reason to not go and have a look. And you might think, oh, I know what that does. But go look at what specific unit has what specific upgrade, and just keep it in mind. It might never become relevant, but even if you don't look at the start, when it's becoming to a crucial moment, maybe go have a look. Don't get surprised by something that was on show all the time, or you should have had access to. Like, just don't be surprised. Don't let that get in the way and make you lose. And then, so those are pretty basic things, aren't they, really? Know thyself, know thy enemy. It's really, I'm sure the art of war or whatever is probably cringing at my terrible explanations of it. But it's so that's gonna if you can get that in your head, you have a better chance straight off the bat than somebody who isn't doing stuff like that. And then this next one, I will possibly do a full video on this. It's not something that I've properly even considered myself, but it's tried to pick maybe if you have the objective and the condition mini game before the game. Once you've seen your opponent's list and once you know yours, you can maybe try and tailor it. If they have very few units, maybe breakthrough might be an option, or if they have a gun line, maybe you want the one where you can't see turn one, something like that. They're situational. I'm sure somebody somewhere might make a chart for unit types and stuff like that. If not, maybe I'll do it, but I would need to play more games of each objective to properly consider that. But I guess that's all I'm saying is, you have an active role in that. You might as well try and pick something tailored to your army and tailored away from your opponent's army. So one thing I want to talk about is focus fire and target selection. Now this one is a little bit trickier because the subject is quite vast, but what I want to say here is just take your time and think about what threats they have and what you want to disable. So I think I was playing a game and Luke Skywalker, I was the Imperial's Luke Skywalker's coming straight at me. What do? I know I want to kill all the infantry and stuff like that, but Luke's such a threat. I need to pepper him down because he'll just butcher me if he gets there. So there's no point me just shooting one unit at him and calling it a day. Now, obviously, in this game, you have suppression, so maybe you want to take that in mind. But don't just shoot the closest person or be like, oh, I can see them, so I'll shoot them. You've got to think about what effectiveness they're going to have. Fleet troopers, maybe range 4 away from you. Is there any point even trying to disable them? Maybe not, but you obviously don't want to get them to within range 2. So it's a big subject, but as I said, most people will, I guess, but just spend a bit of time and just think who you don't want to who are the threats, who you don't want to let have their way, and try and take them on. And last, but hopefully possibly not least, but I guess one of them has to be least, it's utilize giving orders in a way that minimizes variance. Now that's an awkward way of explaining something, but let's take for example, we've got 2 stormtrooper units, we've got Darth Vader and a speeder bike, right? And let's say we're going to use push, the 2-pip command push. We can give 2 orders. If I give my order to Darth Vader and the stormtroopers, then in the pile, my randomly selected pile, I'll have the speeder bikes and another core unit. And that might all be well and good, sure. But there is technically a better way of doing it in this specific example. And you can apply this for a lot of other examples, which I'll get onto in a minute. But I could have simply given my tokens to Darth Vader and the speeder bikes, and then my randomly selected ones would have been core units. They're all the units I have left. Therefore, I have full control over the order of my activations. Now, a lot of people will have figured this out, but it's worth thinking about it all the time, because obviously in that example, you can control everything. But imagine, there could be a situation where we had just one unit order to give, but obviously we've got 3 different types of units. So is there a better way of doing it? The answer is yes. Now, obviously, if you really need a unit to do something this turn before somebody else does something that turn, you give them the order no matter what. It's situational, but mathematically there is a best way of doing it if there is no game reason for not doing it, if that makes sense. So let's say we were doing 1. Well, if I gave it to my stormtroopers, I'd have a stormtrooper left, my speeder bikes left, and Darth Vader left. Everything's 1 in 3. Okay. Let's say I then give it to Darth Vader instead. Well, then I'd have a speeder bike and 2 trooper units. So I've got a 2 in 3 and a 1 in 3. And you're more likely to know what you're going to get. Now, if you want the speeder bike, it's still a 1 in 3. There's no harm. But if you want a core trooper, it's a 2 in 3. So you've got a higher chance. Situational, but it's worth keeping that in mind on the wider scale. Now, the light's changing and flickering and stuff like that because I've had to set the camera like on auto because the sun is just like up and down and my room just can't handle it. But yeah, there is a better way of doing it mathematically than just randomly selecting, basically. Like in my example, it said if you give it to Darth Vader and the Stormtroopers, you're going to be guessing if you need to pick the other unit of Stormtroopers. It's just 50-50 chance. Whereas if you give it to Darth Vader and the speeder bikes, you have full control. So you can either get full control like that, or you can try and limit the variance and the randomness of your selections. You managed to do those things, and I think you're looking okay. Now, I'm very much aware that some of this here is very simple. The know thyself kind of thing, that's all well and good, but that's also really good advice if you're just going to go to an event and you're a little bit worried. It's just make sure you know what your stuff is and you know the rules, basically. But they're actually pretty important because they impact your decisions, and you can only like calculate so much in a short amount of time. So if you need to keep looking at your cards, you're going to have a bit of trouble. So it's worth keeping that in mind. Look at your opponent's list, know what they're probably going to try and do. That helps you predict stuff, helps you understand what their goals are. Try and pick relevant objectives so you can win the game. I guess people do that anyway, naturally, because you have to pick something. Don't just pick the ones you like. Try and pick the ones that are best for you and the worst for your opponent. Try and focus your fire. I guess it's try and increase your target selection. Don't just randomly pick that, and utilize the orders that you are giving just so that you can either have more control or have less randomness in that moment. And that's it. So, I mean, I wanted to do like a picture of the table, but I think we'll save that for sort of like more complicated stuff. I'm not the best player, don't get me wrong, but I'm hoping we can sort of learn together. Like if I don't necessarily remember everything when I'm playing. Like I will forget stuff, but I can see that if I was better at that, maybe I would make better decisions. But there's other stuff we can do, like movement. We can possibly do target selection a little bit more detail, that kind of thing. But we'll get there when we get there. For now, this was the basics of how to get a little bit better at Star Wars Legion. Let me know your thoughts. Are there any like really basic stuff that you think I've missed out? Yeah, let me know. If you like this video, do like. You can also subscribe. If you want to support me, there'll be a link to Patreon here, and I really appreciate that. And thank you to anybody who does support me there. You should have a most beautiful day, though, and goodbye. Goodbye.